Jonathan Smith met with the media on Monday talking about what happened in Saturday's scrimmage and also some pretty big injury news.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends and Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week, right here as we build up to kickoff. That is just 11 days from now, guys. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below who you think is going to be a breakout player on the offensive side of the ball, because yes, we're going to get to that conversation, but first we're going to get through all the media availability that there was today in East Lansing. Jonathan Smith spoke, Courtney Hawkins spoke, Nick Marsh spoke. So yes, there's a lot to get to today, then offensive breakout players, and then, yeah, just a nice little update with the Central Michigan Connor Stallion story, which we will tuck away here at the end of this show, guys. So let's get into it. Like we said, Jonathan Smith, he spoke to the fine media contingent of your Michigan State Spartans. And look, if you missed yesterday's show, we did a whole breakdown of everything that we caught, through picking and prodding about what happened at Saturday's closed-door scrimmage. So if you want more information on that, you missed yesterday's show, just go ahead and listen to that one after this. But additional notes dropped by Jonathan Smith here at Monday's media availability. Starting off with a nice one here. He said, quote, red zone efficiency was really good in the second scrimmage. Now, that was a quote from a tweet by Spartan Mag, so I wanted to shout out Spartan Mag right there really quick, who was at the media availability. But yeah, let's talk about red zone efficiency, because I know we've all tried, and many of us successfully have done this. Forget last season, especially the trials and tribulations within those 20 yards up to the end zone, because that was something that really snake bit Michigan State last year. Look, I know that we're getting a lot of coach speak. We're getting a lot of positivity because every team in the nation is undefeated. You'd be very hard-pressed to find any coaching staff out there just dogging on their team right now, but it is nice to hear that at least red zone efficiency was pretty solid in the scrimmage on Saturday, because let's rewind the clock to last fall. Michigan State, they scored 18 touchdowns in 37 red zone trips. That is a tick below 50%. Now, if you're wondering if that's good, if that's fine, if that's just a little below average, you'd be wrong on all accounts. That was good for 124th in the nation amongst FBS teams. That is 5th worst amongst Power 4 teams and 3rd worst in the Big Ten. Only UCLA and Northwestern were worse at getting into the red zone and turning those into touchdowns. So, hey, I think there's reason to believe in the red zone efficiency picking up. One, I'm going to knock on wood because, hi, it's Locked On Spartans. We jinx some things sometimes on this show. And the first thing is that the turnovers in the red zone can't get any worse than last year, right? It seemed like they had 29 red zone turnovers throughout the season. That's going to hurt when it comes to scoring a touchdown, is just giving the ball to the other team. The second reason why I think that there can be optimism with the red zone offense, my God, look at the weapons. Are you kidding me? Nick Marsh. Okay, alien cyborg, back for his sophomore year. He's big, he's strong, he's physical, he can jump, he could do it all, even as a true sophomore. You get big-bodied wide receiver, Evan Boyd from Central Michigan, 6'3", 6'4", depending on if he's wearing cleats or socks or not, but regardless, that is a real solid option that you have in the red zone. And speaking of red zone targets, a lot of fanfare. Once again, going on with this tight end room, Jack Velling, Michael Masunas, Brennan Parachek. There should be no shortage of tall, physical, big-body targets once you get in the red zone. And, oh yeah, speaking of physicality, how about the starting running back, or trending to be the starting running back? It's still going to be kind of by committee-ish. But 6'1", 230-pound Brandon Tulis, you give that guy a handoff with 2 yards to go to the end zone. Again, knock on wood, because we saw a lot of short yardage situations get busted last year. I like to think that bowling ball can get you to the end zone here. So I think there's a lot of optimism surrounding this team when it comes to red zone offense, even with all the trials and tribulations last year, guys. Please don't make me look like an idiot 11 days from now. I beg you. Now, guys, we're going to keep going here. He was also giving a shout-out to Samaj Bridgman, saying that he had the most interceptions of anybody in fall camp. So that obviously goes beyond just Saturday's scrimmage, and it looks like Samaj Bridgman is balling out, which is important to note, because when we talked about the scrimmage yesterday, we labeled Brady Pretzloff, Marcelius Pulliam as guys that also, showed out at Saturday's scrimmage. And we've had the Samaj Bridgman conversation on this show here in the last week or so. That, he's playing very well. in practice, but like he might be the odd man out of this room potentially just because there just might be a logjam at the linebacker position. And I know that might sound ridiculous. Hey, this team that has a 5.5 over/under win total has a logjam of talent at a certain position. But yeah, linebacker and wide receiver, I'm comfortable saying that with. So this got me thinking, because let's just call it your first string right now is looking like Wayne Matthews, Jordan Hall, Darius Snow. Your second string, it could be any one of Marcellus Polium, Brady Pretzloff, Ice Moa, Samaj Bridgman. Even Sam Edwards actually got some love today too, the 6th-year player out of Williamsport, or Williamston, I'm sorry, the Lansing area city. Oh, that's not going to go over well with the Lansing area listeners. Shoot. Got the Ron Williams city down. Regardless, there's some talent in that room here. So this got me thinking. I'm playing coach right now. I wonder if there's ever going to be like a situation or a movement to get one of those guys on that edge rush role, like specifically in passing situations. I mean, all the guys that I just labeled, right? Like Polium, Moa, Bridgman, Edwards, like those guys are all undersized for your traditional edge role. They're all about 6'1", 6'2". The guys that they got in the offseason, some of them are 6'4", 6'5". So you're giving up a little bit of physicality there. Maybe not fit for a run look, if you will, maybe like on a first down or a second and short. But if it's 3rd and 12, if these guys are some of the best players that you have on defense, and you can't find a spot for them anywhere else in the field, maybe you do what you did with Brandon Wright a few years ago. Now, if you remember Brandon Wright, he was a running back at first, then he converted to defense. Same situation, a little undersized, wasn't always on the field, but did an adequate job in the pass rush on 3rd and longs, on 2nd and longs, passing down situations. I wonder if you just go ahead and do that. And that's no disrespect to any of the guys they brought in for this edge position. But one of those guys might give yourself the best shot here in the high leverage pass situations. So could you see a defensive line of, let's call it the NASCAR package? I always love saying that. That's where you get your speed for your 4 guys on the line on these passing downs, like Quindarius Dunnigan, Jalen Thompson, both of those guys in the middle. And then let's say like Samaj Bridgman on the outside, Tyler Gillison on the other outside edge. I can see it. But I'm also the guy that's just doing the podcast. I'm not these guys that's wearing the headset and watching these guys every day in practice. But to me, hey, that's a lot of speed. That's a lot of talent. That's a lot of nightmares for a quarterback, in my opinion. So I do wonder if we're ever going to see that starting in week 1 or ever throughout this season. But as we're on the topic of linebackers, I do want to give credit to Jonathan Smith and company, because just the way that they stocked this linebacker room has to be admired, has to be applauded, because the last guy, Mel Tucker, and we can go up and down about the things that we did and did not like about his tenure here. One thing that I did not necessarily like is the fact that he recruited 2 linebackers out of high school in his short time here. It was Quavian Carter, who eventually hit the transfer portal, and then Jordan Hall, which, hey, we're thrilled about that one. No argument there. Thanks a lot for your efforts there, Mel Tucker. But where's everyone else? And I understand, obviously, you could use a transfer portal just like Smith did last season, just like Mel Tucker did when he was here. The transfer portal exists for a reason, but it's still nice to build depth at a position out of high school recruiting here. So this is what Smith did right when they got to campus, even before last season began, guys. Let's just give everyone a refresher here. They went and got Wayne Matthews out of Old Dominion last year. Not only was he an instant starter last year, but eligibility for this season too. Last year, now, these were 2 pickups that most people kind of somewhat slept on. It was Marcellus Polium out of Miami and then Samaj Bridgman out of Michigan. Now, these guys weren't going to be instant impact guys last year. Did Marcellus get on the field eventually? Yes, he did. But this was more so for this year because, well, he had to. Jonathan Smith saw just 2 years into the future and said, this is going to be a skinny room if I don't pick up some guys for the 2025 season. And also a really solid pickup with Ice Moa out of BYU. Joe Rossi, he comes as defensive coordinator, gets Brady Pretzloff to flip over to Michigan State with him. So, yeah, guys, I really think that there's a lot to be admired with how Rossi, how Jonathan Smith, how everyone in the organization treated the linebacker role for this year, with work that started even before last year's season. So just a tip of the cap for that, guys. All right, we're going to be back here in a hot second, everyone. Just need to talk your ears off about, that's right, PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards, guys. Preseason is already heating up, and college football, you already know it isn't too far behind. And whether you've got your eye on a big-name quarterback or a breakout running back, whatever it is, PrizePicks makes it easy to get into the game, and it is a game changer on both Saturdays, Sundays during the fall. One of my favorite things to do last year, Sunday morning, coffee's brewing. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and make my lineup right now, and you pick more or less on anywhere from 2 to 6 players, their stat projections. And guys, if you get your picks right, well, yeah, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. It's a quick way to get some good action in on the day's games. Go ahead, spam Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm Ross St. Brown, just like I did last year, guys. But before that, download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. It's PrizePicks. Run your game. And also going to talk your ear off about a product I just used before we started recording. That's right, DripDrop, guys. Pounded their cherry limeade flavor. 0 sugar, by the way. I absolutely love this stuff, guys. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better. My energy, my mood, my focus, even my skin. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy, and that's why I've been loving DripDrop. Over the weekend, guys, had a rip-roaring time at one of my good friends' weddings in Chicago, and that includes a 5-hour road trip both ways. So between all the festivities, if you will, and then the road trips, not a lot of water consumption. I got back on my feet with DripDrop because, guys, it is just simply the best. It is packed with electrolytes. It's not weighed down with sugar, and it's going to beat any leading sports drink that you have out there. Right now, DripDrop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to DripDrop.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard, guys. All right, let's talk about that injury news that I teased at the start of this show here. Now, yesterday during the scrimmage update, no injuries came from that scrimmage, but there has been one that's been nagging this team that is getting resolved, and another one nagging this team that could lead into week 1 and shake up some things on the defensive side of the ball. And we'll start there, actually, because it comes out that Nikai Martinez, Jonathan Smith said this, it's possible that he's going to miss the opener of the season with an injury that he sustained back in the spring. So this has definitely been longer term. Obviously, the optimism isn't entirely there for a week 1 showing for him, but he also named Justin Denson as a guy getting reps at the 1, and then Armarion Smith as well. So those are the 2 guys that look to be starting in that spot for him, vying for that starting safety role. Now, Nikai Martinez, as you would remember, played all 12 games last year, started all 12 games last year. Really solid safety, I thought, the transfer from UCF. So bummer to hear about that, but hey, Justin Denson, we talked about him yesterday. He's been having a good fall camp. Armarion Smith, good to see him get back into action. Obviously, just a horrendous situation that surrounded him last year that pretty much didn't keep him entirely sidelined last year, but wasn't there in the full capacity because, if you'd remember the tragic story of his mother passing, he becomes a primary guardian of all of his siblings. He had some more important issues going on than football last year, so it's good to see football come back into his life at a higher capacity this year. Now, the other injury that we're seeing someone come back from, Jack Velling, his boot is off, like we talked about yesterday, and Smith went as far as saying that he will be back in practice this week. So, obviously, that's seeming like a good piece of news for his availability in week 1. And I'm sorry, there's actually one more piece of news in the injury department, and this one, I'm actually a little shook about, I'm not going to lie. I don't know how this happens. I'm not going to claim to know. I didn't hear anything what happened. I don't know if these 2 got in a moped accident on Shaw Lane, but Michigan State's 2 kickers are out with injuries. Riddle me that. Unless they're doing Oklahoma drills with the rest of the team, I don't. How does that? That's real good luck going in for Michigan State season right there. Anyway, Tariq Amapasak, I hope I'm saying that name somewhat correctly. He is working back, Jonathan Smith said, but Martin Connington could be out a little longer. Now, Martin Connington, this was the top 10 kicker out of Idaho last season. Tariq Amapasak, he's from Michigan, went to high school in Michigan, not Michigan University. So we'll see. So right now doing the kicking duties is Blake Sislow from Davenport University. Now, he was on the team from 2021 to 2023. Never saw game action with Davenport. So what better to start your college kicking career, not at Davenport, no disrespect, but in front of a sold-out 75,000-seat stadium against Western in 11 days on Friday. I did hear that he actually did a decent job kicking the ball at Saturday's scrimmage, but whoa. Blake is going to grow up fast here as a transfer senior from Davenport. Good luck, Blake. We believe in you. Really quick before getting into some Hawkins and Marsh stuff, guys, meet the Spartans. 4 to 8 p.m. on Thursday, 5:30 to 6:30. Autographs with Jonathan Smith and players will take place. Now, we're going to go really quick through some Courtney Hawkins news and notes here because he spoke to the media as well. He talked about the scrimmage, how the offense just played faster this time compared to the first scrimmage where a lot of guys were held out on the offensive side of the ball. He said the game is slowing down for Aidan Chiles. And this is a tweet from Emmett Matazowski. I hope I said that right, Emmett Matazowski. One of those has to be right, Emmett. One of those has to be right. Anyway, Courtney Hawkins said, quote, I think Aidan Chiles has the chance to be the most dynamic quarterback to come through here. We've had some really good guys, though. So acknowledging that, yeah, you've had your Kirk Cousins, you've had your Connor Cooks, but hey, look, we've said as much too. Physically, and with the ceiling, yeah, he could be the best quarterback to ever come through Michigan State. We just got to see it all slow down for him and for it all to come together. Now, that wasn't the only praise that Courtney Hawkins had. He also talked about his wide receiver room, saying that this is one of the best rooms that they've had here in a couple years, but also tapped the brakes. Gave the nod to the 2021 room because that had 3 NFL players. So, yeah, but hey, if not for nothing else, best wide receiver room in 4 years. And he also said they could work their way up to 2021 status, which I could actually kind of believe. I could see Nick Marsh making the NFL. Call me crazy. Omari Kelly, I think, has an NFL future. And then if you can get one of Braylon Collier, let's say Ronnie Bullard blows up, Christian McCray, why not? Don't threaten me with a good time. Hey, could there be 3 pros in this wide receiver room? Yeah, I think so. Maybe I'm drinking too much offseason Kool-Aid, but I truly think so with this room, guys. So he also said that this will be a committee for the inside receiver spot, this wide receiver 3 spot that we've just been talking about ad nauseum the last few weeks. It could be Braylon Collier, true freshman. Could be Christian McCray. Could be Rodney Bullard. It's going to be a carousel there for at least the first few weeks, I would reckon. So Nick Marsh also spoke to the media, too. He had great things to say about Aidan Chiles, saying that he means business. He is more vocal now. And also, he was just asked about his path to Michigan State. You know, why is he still here? Because obviously there were some suitors that wanted him on their teams in this offseason. Says that he absolutely loves it in East Lansing. He's part of the Spartan family, loves everyone that is in the program, and that he truly felt like a Spartan in that 2021 Michigan game. And God, even just saying 2021 Michigan game, that still gets the heart going, guys, right? Like that, the goosebumps that can stand in your neck sometimes if you just think about that game for a little too long. That's some of the best feelings ever. My God, great times. Anyway, hey, so Kenneth Walker, thank you for your impact that you made on Nick Marsh's life. Much appreciated. And he also was asked about the Biletnikoff watch list. Now, if you guys missed this, the Biletnikoff, that's the reward given to best receiver in the nation at the end of the year. Now, 2 Michigan State receivers made that list. None of them were Nick Marsh. Now, Nick Marsh did say that was great for Omari Kelly and Christian McCray to be one, or I guess 2 of the 50 guys named on this preseason watch list. But then, kind of said, and whether he meant it or whether he was joking is to be determined, but said that there's less pressure on Nick Marsh now because, hey, if I'm not going to be on the Biletnikoff watch list, then that's going to make life easier for me. I think he's smarter than that. I think he knows that he's going to possibly publicly humiliate the Biletnikoff committee for leaving him off that list. So, yeah. Just baffling that they were able to do that. Just leave him off that list. Anyway, guys, we're going to get to breakout players because I got some, you got some. We'll riff on the Central Michigan stuff just for a little bit because news did come out today. But first, I need to talk everyone's ear off about OpenPhone. That's right, guys. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time that you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. I'm just going to assume no, actually. You probably moved on. And that's why you need OpenPhone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep businesses and personal calls separate? You could, but OpenPhone's going to fix that for you. They solved it instantly, and the AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads, so you never have to miss a customer again. See why over 60,000 businesses trust OpenPhone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That's openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free, guys. It is so easy with OpenPhone. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, so a few days ago on the good old X.com or Twitter.com, it depends if you're old-fashioned or not, I just went and had an ask, guys, give me your breakout offensive player candidates. We did defense last week. Let's switch sides of the ball here. And you know what? 2 lovely people. They both wrote in the same answer. Michael Masunis, your tight end. And those two lovely people were his parents. How cool is that? How actually jarring is that some players' parents listen to this show? Thank you guys very much. Love the work that your children do for this football team. But anyway, I swear I'm not sucking up to the Masunis family. I swear I'm not trying to butter them up or trying to just make listeners of this show happy. That it was going to be where I was going to lead off here, actually, because, look, it was a short season for him. It was a bummer. 4 games, misses rest with an injury, but I see the vision with Michael Masunis. He was the best blocking tight end of the bunch in just those 4 games. And I think, I mean, look, am I an expert? Depends who you ask. I think I like football enough to consider myself an expert. I think it's a pretty wide margin of how good he was blocking a tight end. And also, competency at catching the ball, too. How many leak routes did he have last year where they're just dinking and diving for 8 yards down the field against FAU? That was working good in the first half. I really enjoyed watching that. But yeah, that injury really set him back. So that's why I think he's a really good breakout candidate. Someone that's flying under the radar right now, ready to just pop off and will be a household name among Spartan fans by the end of the season. And also, like, speaking of names that you might not know that are going to be names that everyone knows by the end of the season, this doesn't always happen. It rarely happens, actually, but I think there's a lot of good candidates on the offensive line. Whether it's Stanton Ramel, okay, your left tackle coming back, redshirt sophomore season, I think he's going to have a real solid year coming up. Connor Moore, the transfer from Montana State. That is going to be a big position here because if you guys would remember, Aidan Chiles, 3rd most pressured quarterback in the Big Ten last year. Many of those pressures coming from the tackle position. Another year of growth, a strong transfer added. Maybe they could patch up some of the issues on that offensive line here. But guys, let's go to you because there is no shortage of options out there. And I just wanted to go down to the list and highlight a few players that you guys said on Twitter. Like Al Karsten, he wrote 20 names down. All 20 were Stanton Ramel. He wrote Stanton Ramel 20 times. Now look, 613 snaps of experience last year. Was it a total disaster for him? No, not at all. But was it a great season? Of course not. It was his first year, redshirt freshman, coming off of an ACL injury. But if you watched and if you actually listened to what he had to say on the show not too long ago, by the end of the season, like, he was getting better and better with every game, specifically in November. Pro Football Focus also mirrors that too. So I really think that he's going to have a strong year coming up. Great Lakes Fun Guy wrote in Christian Phillips. That's right, Big Dooley. Unfortunately, his season ended, in what felt like 10 seconds last year. But I was really high on him going into last year. Really hope he recovers from his knee injury adequately enough where he could be the same player that he was even for that small sliver of time last year because he balled out in the spring game last year. Hey, I need to see Big Dooley. I need to see him healthy this upcoming season. Now, Alex wrote in Nick Marsh is my candidate, which a few of you guys did write Nick Marsh. And for breakout player, hey, if he's not on the Blitnikoff list, if he's getting left off of top 10 receiver list, if he's getting left off of preseason all Big Ten, first, second, third team list, yeah, I got no problem with calling Nick Marsh a breakout player candidate. But Alex also did write in, if under the radar, how about Matt Golden, offensive line transfer from Wake Forest? This was one of the best interior offensive line guys when it came to being graded by Pro Football Focus for run blocking. Okay, this is going to be your starting center most likely. And hey, worked out for Wake Forest whenever they ran off his right or left shoulder, whenever they ran in his gaps last year. I know it's not a perfect science, but hey, those are numbers you can attribute to his ability. That's when Wake Forest got the most yards on the ground, is when they were running off his you-know-what. No, we're going to balloon it out of the offensive line room right now. Ethan writes in Rodney Bullard. After the top 3 wide receivers, he feels like a guy that'll still make a meaningful impact. A couple of 50-plus yard touchdowns at some point. Rodney Bullard is an interesting case because we talked about it on yesterday's show. One of, I believe it was 18 guys at the Division II level out of Valdosta State. Got called out for that pronunciation yesterday. I'm sorry to all the Valdosta State citizens. Yeah, 1,000 yards at the Division II like shows competency, but can it really be something in Power 4 football? Based on what we've been hearing in fall camp, it actually might very well work out. But I do think that he's going to be a guy that will put up a few touchdowns this year. Nothing crazy like 10, 12, or 15, but hey, with Courtney Hawkins saying that this will be a receiver by committee situation, he's going to have his opportunity. Now, Big Steve, he's going to bring up a name we talked about a little earlier, Evan Boyd. His height can cause problems if he's paired with Marsh. I think he's going to be a great red zone threat. He clearly was for Central Michigan last year. He was their leading receiver up until week It was either 9 or 10 whenever he left the season with that injury, but he was the Chippewas' leading receiver as a redshirt freshman last season. Eric has a question, actually. He said, are we allowed to say Velling after last season? I think Velling is perfectly fine. I think Velling, statistically, it was such an underwhelming year for him last year, and again, like not entirely all his fault to go from like 8 touchdowns to 1 touchdown last year. Offense had a lot of issues. It was hard to scheme him open when he was, kind of like having every eyeball on him. Hopefully more weapons this year. It's going to be more like those Oregon State days. But I feel like he's just been so forgotten about by some people that, yeah, I will count him as a breakout candidate. But Eric also wrote in, if not, Brandon Tullis is going to win the hearts of a lot of MSU fans. Dude runs hard at 6'1", 230. I truly do. You know what? I wasn't too high on the running back room, and obviously we still got to see it materialize starting next Friday. But what we're hearing about Brandon Tullis is that, yeah, he is looking to be the guy that's going to take running back 1. And if not for nothing else, just the physicality, just how big he is, make it happen on short yardage situations. We haven't seen that in what seems like the Kenneth Walker era, if I do say so myself. All right, guys, we're going to end this with some Connor Stallion Central Michigan talk because CBS Detroit, they broke it today. And Tony Garcia of the Free Press, he also wrote an article about this as well. We're just going to quote the article really quick. Quote, according to CBS Detroit, the CMU football staff requested the ex-Michigan football staffer to aid its staff during CMU's 2023 season opener on the road in East Lansing at Michigan State on September 1st, 2023. So it was all entirely Central Michigan. And this is one of the victory laps that the Michigan fans are taking after paying a record fine, seeing their head coach suspended roughly 10 years, Connor Stallion suspended 8 years. All things that pretty much scream that, yeah, you guys certainly cheated and here are your punishments, but they see it as evidence that they didn't cheat. I don't know. I don't do their type of rationality. I don't really understand it. But anyway, one of the victory laps is that, Sparty, we told you, this whole Stallions thing had nothing to do with Michigan when it comes to the CMU game, which makes sense. Current Michigan staffer drives over to Michigan's rival school, helps 2 former Michigan staffers, Jim McElwain and Jake Costner, that were coached and were coaching under the current Michigan head coach. It truly had nothing to do with Michigan. How could they have known? Surely they had no idea what he was doing the night before their own game, too. How could they? No one even knew Stallions in that room. They never stood next to him during games. I doubt they even had his phone number. So, yeah, of course, it was all Central Michigan. Michigan skates completely free in this regard with no smarm, no sarcasm. Michigan did nothing wrong in this whole saga. Congratulations. Now, actually, I'm going to pause here because I'm going to react just a little bit to the punishments handed out on Saturday. We talked a little bit about it before the weekend. Largely a yawn because nothing that was going to happen on Saturday was going to change their opinions. And let's be honest, our opinions. If it was a nothing punishment, we would still think they cheated to win a title. If it was the Death Hammer 9000, well, their fans wouldn't think that it changed anything for the national championship anyway. So that's why I didn't really have any passionate retort immediately after. But I'll say though, I have been pleasantly surprised with the national fallout after Saturday or Friday's punishments, I should say, because it seems like the national tone is like, oh, yeah, these punishments definitely suggest and cement that these guys cheated. And that is a tainted title. I mean, all sorts of national voices are saying that. So it's like, I know that Poing Yang over there in Ann Arbor, they're saying that, hey, we did it, guys. There's evidence that Harbaugh never knew about it. This is great, despite that evidence laying at the bottom of some pond in Wyandotte somewhere. Again, I can't do their line of thinking, but that was an interesting reaction from the national media. So anyway, let's just keep talking about the CMU thing because obviously was rubbed the wrong way by CMU doing this, and I still am rubbed the wrong way. And how could you not? I mean, oh, you salty Sparty. Yeah, of course I am. You guys sent a staffer over to play dress up during one of our games wearing potentially, probably spy glasses. Anyway, yeah, you cheated. And then this was all after giving Central Michigan north of $1 million. And all that Jim McElwain had to do was laugh about it at the press conference in November when this whole thing started to bubble up. And then he just got to retire. He just signed an extension 2 years prior, but oh no, I'm actually just going to retire and take a cushy CMU athletics administration job. That's right. How about that for a nice punishment? Jay Costner, the quarterback's coach or the offensive coordinator, I forgot what title he was, but that was the guy at Michigan. He was probably one of the ringleaders here. He gets let go. And that was, of course, I think just months after signing an extension. And then Amy Fullen, the wonderful athletic director over there, she couldn't even be bothered to find Alan Haller's phone number and apologize or at least explain their side of the situation or anything. That still bothers me. And I forget how long ago this column was written by Graham Couch. It could have been 2 months ago, could have been 2 years ago. I have no concept of time anymore. But when it came out that months, over a year after the fact, and Amy Fullen still hasn't said anything to Alan Haller or Michigan State brass, that's disgusting. that's so shameless. So I've said this a few times. I'll say it again if you're new to this program. Here's what I would do with every future Central Michigan matchup. Now, the next one for football, slated to happen in 2027. I would wait until the last week of July or the first week of August of 2027 to cancel that game. Very last minute in the world of scheduling football games, because Michigan State, flush with cash, we can just go out and buy an FCS opponent to play. Bring up Prairie View A&M again. Who cares? Throw them a few shekels, $600,000. I don't care. Now Central, I don't know if you guys have read any news lately, but that is not an athletic department flush with cash. And what kind of a program are those plebeians going to buy to fill their schedule a month before their season starts? That would put them in a BIND bind. That's right. Yeah, you want to play some games in 2023? That's cute. That's great. Awesome. We'll keep you on the schedule 2027. No, it's no hard feelings. I'm sure you guys had nothing to do with it. You guys were just so cordial. You guys kept good communication with us during the whole investigation. We'll call you August 5th, 2027 to talk about that matchup next month. So that's what I would do. I'd drag this out as long as humanly possible. I would make it as inconvenient for Central Michigan as possible. Pay whatever fine that it is, but get those Chippewas dancing and sweating in August 2027 to find, I don't know, probably some local high school at that point to play them to start their season. All right, guys, we're going to be back here tomorrow because, it's Locked On Spartans. We do this 5 days a week. Now, until next time, hey, take care of yourselves. Love you all. Let's just get to kickoff, guys. 11 more days. Come on, we got this. Or 10 days, depending on when you're listening to this. Hey, whenever it is, love you all. Go green.